So good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Whitman Senior Center. My name is Dennis Hohengasser. I live in Taunton. I'm retired since about 7 years now. And I'm a volunteer with a group called Senior Medicare Patrol. And we're going to talk about fraud, waste, and abuse and how to protect, detect, and report in keeping Medicare safe for all of us. So the title is that we all hold the key to preventing healthcare errors, fraud, and abuse. Because when we talk about fraud and abuse, we're not talking about beneficiaries being the perpetrators of it. We are the victims of it, and the system is the victim. We are the first line of defense to prevent fraud, waste, and abuse. So today's program is being recorded and will be available on the internet as well as the local cable station. So these are the things we're going to talk about today. What is the Senior Medicare Patrol? What's the difference between fraud, errors, and abuse? How to protect, detect, and report. Why should you use a healthcare journal? I gave you one of them. There'll be a lot more left here at the Senior Center. If anyone wants more than one before they leave, please take them. I've got plenty of them. We're going to talk about telehealth, ambulance versus chair car transfers, observation status, and much more, and talk about some additional resources. So the Senior Medicare Patrol came into existence back in 1997 to do just that, to prevent fraud, waste, and abuse of the Medicare system. It's in all 50 states plus the 4 territories. There are in Massachusetts, they're based out of Elder Services up in Merrimack Valley up in Lawrence. They have 3 full-time folks that do this, and then they rely heavily on volunteers like me and others. There's probably about 40 active volunteers at any one time. And we do 3 things. One, we do these kinds of presentations. We also position ourselves at health fairs and senior events with the information. And we also do one-on-one counseling, peer counseling, with people who have a problem with a Medicare bill or Medicare issue. And those people have been very, very well trained and skilled. They know the health insurance market. They know how to deal with providers. They know how to deal with insurers. Our goal is to reach, educate, and activate Medicare and Medicaid beneficiaries, their family members, their life partners, caregivers, and the professionals on the importance of being engaged. All the SMP programs across the country deal with these presentations of fraud, waste, and abuse. In Massachusetts, we've added one more. We talked about being an engaged healthcare consumer, how you can you can grab a hold and be in charge of your healthcare. So what is fraud? Fraud is when somebody intentionally, knowingly, and willingly lies in order to get Medicare payments. There's no mistake that they don't know what they're doing. This is very deliberate. The Medicare budget is $600 billion a year. It's huge. 10% of that, or $60 billion, goes to fraud, waste, and abuse. Looking at the breakup of population across the United States, about 15% of folks are on Medicare. And that 15%, we're bilked $60 billion that's lost to the Medicare annually. And we want to protect it not only for ourselves, but for the future, for your kids who will eventually become Medicare eligible, and for your grandkids at some point. So fraud is always intentional. It's always misrepresentation. So that's fraud. What are waste and abuse, or errors and abuse? Typically, they're unintentional instances where people are billed for either services that may not have been provided correctly. They may have practices or procedures that are not consistent with sound medical, business, or physical practices. Errors and abuse can result in payments for services that fail to meet professionally recognized standards of care. Errors can be inappropriate, unnecessary care, which fail to meet the standards of a general Medicare. What are the fraud schemes that are out there? Anyone want to take a guess?
Telephone calls?
Telephone calls?
TV ads?
TV ads? Anyone's in particular?
Joe Namath?
Joe Namath.
We'll talk about,
We're talking about that.
we'll talk about some of those in a minute. Yes. Anything else?
Do they know these people when they talk that it isn't good or they just want to get paid?
We'll talk about that right here.
Mail?
Mail,
You get in the mail?
right? Things you get in the mail. So the fraud schemes revolve around these 6 topics in particular. For being billed for services that were never provided. Now, how do you know that? We'll talk about these healthcare journals in a minute and how that can help keep your mind alert as to what happened with your healthcare. Drug diversion. Taking drugs that were meant for you and giving them to somebody else, but you're being billed for the entire amount. That it can happen primarily in healthcare facilities, whether it be nursing homes or in hospitals. Upcoding and unbundling. This I always thought was interesting. Upcoding is billing you for a higher service than you actually received, a more expensive service. For instance, if you go in for an MRI, there's 2 kinds that they do, one with the dye and one without the dye. What do you think is more expensive?
With the dye?
With the dye. So if you're going to have an MRI, we're going to talk about the Medicare summary notices and the explanation of benefits, and talking about how you can look at those and make sure that you're being billed for the right service. The other is unbundling. When you go to have blood tests, they do a panel. It means 5 or 6 blood tests. It's billed as a panel, one item. Unbundling is they bill you for all 6 of those things individually, and it can add up a lot.
I have a question. Does that mean like when you get a blood test and do 2 or 3 different ones, you're getting billed for 3?
It depends on what they're doing.
So
but,
like you get a blood test and they fill like 3 containers. You know what I'm saying? More than one.
it's part of that may be part of an entire panel. The fact that they're taking 3 may not mean that you can get 3 different bills.
So you might get
Right. It's a panel, and they put. Do you know? I found this out. Do you know when they take the blood, they use a couple different things? Have you ever noticed about those? Anything about those vials?
They're different colors?
Yeah, they're different colors, and it has to do when they put them into the centrifuge how they spin out. Are you a nurse? You're nodding. Thank you. False front provider offices. These are oftentimes either through a phone call or through the internet. They perpetrate themselves as being a real healthcare facility or provider, and they are not. So if you're going to go to the internet and look at anything, you need to be very, very careful. If you get a phone call, there's ways of dealing with that too. We'll talk in a second. Identity theft. Let me ask you this. How many people have their Medicare card with them? I don't. I never carry my card with me. So what happens if I get into an accident and go to the hospital? I'm going to die. They're not going to treat me. Right? No, they have to treat you. They have to treat you.
If you have to go somewhere and you have to show your Medicare
Right.
card, you have to take it with you.
Yeah. You're right.
Well,
If you're going to go to the doctor, I would probably
Other
bring
than
it.
that, you should leave it at home, maybe.
Yeah, always.
Okay.
Always. If in fact that you're going to a new doctor, you should bring your card with you. If it's been a doctor that you've seen again and again, the very first time you've seen this person, they ask you for a couple pieces of information.
Now they want you to bring it once a year. They want an ID, picture ID, and bring your Medicare card once a year if you go to the doctor.
Yes, some of them do that. Yes.
But it's specified, please bring your
Yes.
photo ID, just so you're aware of it.
Great.
Would it be safe to just take a picture of it and keep it on your phone to show when you...
I wouldn't know. Because that number is gold to scammers. If they get a hold of that number, even though it's not our social security number anymore, that is gold. Once they have that number, they can start billing Medicare for lots of things. And we'll talk about the implications of that as we go through here. But the false identity theft, yeah. So never carry your card with you unless you're going to go to you're going to go to the doctor. If you get in an accident and they bring you to the hospital, they must treat you. And in fact, if you tell them what your social security number is, they can look you up. They can look up your new Medicare number. They all have access to these databases that hold that
So if
information.
you go to the doctor, you don't have a Medicare card on you, you can tell them your social security number, that they can look it up right away anyways.
If they had to, yeah.
If they had to.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't.
But you're right, they want your picture ID once a year in the morning to make sure that you haven't aged too much.
Whatever, but it's specified.
Yeah.
Please bring it, you know.
And I'm not sure if that's all Medicare providers or if it's a
Well, I know
certain
the one I'm
practice.
going
Yeah,
to, You
yeah,
know, so.
Well, I have to bring mine because I have a new doctor.
Just use your
coming up.
driver's license,
Yeah.
that's all,
exactly.
you know?
I have a new doctor coming up because my other doctor's moving to Quincy, so I gotta get a new.
Yep.
So I have to bring mine next time.
And
Yes.
are you talking just about the Medicare card or the supplemental ones too?
I don't carry that with me either. When it comes to billing, if they know that you have Medicare and they've got to put it through Medicare first to get it to find out how much is going to be covered, and then it goes to your supplemental insurance. So if you got that information to them the next day, that's fine, because it does take a while. And although we're all sitting here, not too close together, but no masks, and a lot of restrictions have been lifted, we think COVID is almost over. It isn't. These scammers are still out there, and they will go 6 ways to Sunday to try to get our information, primarily our Medicare information, and try to get you to either buy or try some kind of a COVID-related service. So examples of errors, fraud, and abuse: it's not your bill. Incorrect medications, the wrong amount, or it's a duplicate. So when you're looking at your explanation of benefits or your Medicare summary notice for prescription drugs, make sure you're not being billed twice for the same billed twice for a one dose medication. Lab tests, billing for tests that were not performed or performed unnecessarily. X-rays or the wrong body part or unnecessary, and surgery unnecessary or more elaborate than needs to be. And the last one is telehealth. With COVID, that has opened up a new avenue for folks to see their providers, and we do it via Zoom or some other video conferencing software. If you do a televisit with your doctor, when you look at your Medicare summary notice, it's going to say office visit. And that's new. That happened since COVID, that they're going to allow telehealth to be billed or supported by Medicare. But make sure that you look at how long the visit was, that you're not being billed for a longer visit than you were actually on the call with the provider. Other kinds of things that are problems: durable medical equipment, whether it be oxygens, wheelchairs, braces. I had in the handouts I gave you, there's one on braces. This is Brace Yourself. We've all seen on TV the ads where it says, you may be eligible for a brace.
Yeah.
You may be eligible, but you don't need it. What they do is when you call that number, they're going to connect you to a salesperson, and on the other end of the line will be some kind of either nurse practitioner or physical therapist. And they will ask you certain questions, and based on the way you answer those questions, guess what? You're eligible. And they're going to send it to you. And the chances are they're not going to send you just the knee brace or the leg brace. They're going to send you a box of stuff, and they're going to bill it all to Medicare.
So basically, the knee brace is free, but everything else is not. Correct?
No, the problem is if I fall for that trap and get a knee brace, and then 2 years later I really fall and hurt my knee and I need a brace, you're going to say, I need a brace, and Medicare is going to say, I'm sorry, we can't pay for that. That brace that we sent you, that we paid for 2 years ago, is good for 3 years. You need to wait another year. And the other thing is, you do not want wrong information as part of your health record. That's why it's important to look at those Medicare summary notices. Everything that's on there that's being billed by Medicare on your behalf is going on to your health record. And a lot of these health records are electronic now. Here's a talk about durable medical goods and the scams that are out there. This woman, Rita Vines, she has since passed, but she was in her 90s, and she lived up in Haverhill. And she had a scooter chair, and it was 10 years old. The seat was kind of ripped, but it needed a new battery. Well, didn't her friend from downstairs come up and say, Rita, look at this glossy thing I just found. You could get a brand new chair, scooter chair for Medicare, and Medicare will pay for it. So Rita thought, well, this sounds like a good idea. So she ordered the chair. Well, she'd gotten the phone with the salesperson, and they upsold her to the Rolls-Royce version of the chair. Came to her house. She got into it. It was too big to maneuver the halls, to don't turn corners. She broke several toes in the course of doing this, so she found this wasn't working. So she called them. After negotiating with them for quite a while, they said, all right, we'll take that one back and give you a different one. These chairs are not one size fits all. They have to know your height, your weight. They have to know your surroundings so that they know what kind of chair works best in your facility or your home. So she finally got the other one, but it was not set right, and it wasn't the right size for her. She couldn't move from the chair, from the scooter chair into her easy chair, or from her scooter chair into her bed. So she finally gave up, and she was going to get the other chair out of the closet, the old one. And she called Medicare and said, I need a new battery. They said, ma'am, we just paid for a brand new scooter chair for you. You can't get a new battery because this one, you don't need it because it's a brand new chair. Hence, don't let people, that's why you don't want things that are part of your health record that aren't part of your real health. It took she contacted the Senior Medicare Patrol up in Lawrence. It took these people forever, probably over a year, to try to resolve this. And these people are skilled working with providers and with health insurance companies and Medicare. And it took them a year to solve this problem for her. That's why if you have any problem with anything relative to Medicare, in that booklet, there's a number for the Senior Medicare Patrol up in Lawrence. Call them. They're more than happy to help you work through what the problem is.
I have a question. So when she called them, they didn't ask her like her weight and stuff like that?
I don't know the specifics, no. But don't forget, these people just want to make a sale.
Well, that's true.
Home health care is another area that is rampant with, not rampant maybe, but there's a lot of the fraud going on. And this happens with billing for home health care when Medicare criteria is not met. For example, the consumer is not homebound or does not need some skilled nursing care. So you must be homebound in order to get home health care. It's not that you can't be like a friend of mine who decided that, well, yeah, I know, I want to get home health care, but I really need to get my hair done, she said, and she wanted to leave the house. And they said, you can't, then you become ineligible. If you can leave the house, then you don't need home health care. Billing for skilled services that were not provided or provided unnecessarily if you didn't really need skilled care. And billing for more visits or services than that were provided. If you are eligible for speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy as part of home health care, and you're, say, approved for 20 visits, and they come every so often. At about the 12th or 13th, I may lose count of, is this a... So it's important that you keep track of when they come, hence these healthcare journals we think are important, to keep track of that information so you're not billed for more than is necessary. The other thing is quality of care. We hear stories all the time where somebody has a healthcare, a home health person coming in to doing some therapy with the folks, and they weren't very good. After the fourth time, I said, forget it. It's important. Medicare is paying for that. Medicare should know if you're receiving inferior service. There's a number in here that we'll talk about in a few minutes when we go through the journal, that you can call if you have a quality of care issue. And somebody mentioned something earlier, protect yourself from becoming a victim of deceptive marketing, whether it's on TV, don't call, whether it be a phone call coming into you, hang up. Seniors, we think that's kind of rude to just hang up on people, but you gotta be, and just hang up. So don't reply to postcards, or deceptive TV ads, phone calls, or questionable surveys. And don't provide your Medicare number over the phone to anyone unless you actually know who you are talking to, whether it be your physician or some other healthcare provider or an insurance company that you know who you're talking to and you can trust. The reason that scammers are pretty good at fraud is because Medicare is a very complicated program. I was talking to Jill Getchell a few minutes ago, the Shine worker here, and she was saying that it's very confusing, that she's learning as she goes about Part A, Part B, and I just had a discussion earlier about the Advantage plans. So there's two, Part A and Part B are what we call traditional Medicare. Part A, we paid for as we were working. Money was taken out of our checks. Part B, if we pay $144 and some odd cents a month. So that's traditional, Part A and Part B. If you have Part A and Part B, you must also buy into Part D, which is the prescription drug plan. So A, B, and D go together. The other thing that we see Joe Namath and other folks on the TV advertising are something called Advantage plans. And those are what we call Medicare C, but better known as Advantage plans. And let's take a look at each of those. So Part A pays for inpatient care, skilled nursing facilities, hospice care, home health care for the homebound beneficiaries. Pays 100%. Part B pays for doctors, outpatient care, home health care, physical therapy, occupational therapy, and durable medical goods. That pays 80% of what that is. That leaves 20% that we as beneficiaries need to pay. We probably have seen the ad on TV with the pizza pulling out the 20%. Yeah. And then Part D is a drug plan. Part C is what they call a Medicare Advantage plan, and they're, in essence, a health maintenance organization, HMO. If you decide you want to do that, you want to go to an Advantage plan because of maybe stuff you've heard on TV. Remember that Joe Namath keeps on talking about you may be eligible. You may get these things. May doesn't mean you will. It depends on, each state regulates, I think, home Advantage plans a little bit differently. It depends on your health care needs as to which A, B, or C that you opt for. The other thing is these health maintenance organizations or Advantage plans, you must use a doctor within that plan. I, as a beneficiary, because I have A and B in a Medigap plan that picks up the other 20%, I can go anywhere. If you belong to a Advantage plan, you must go to a doctor within that plan. And the fact that you have Advantage plans, say through Blue Cross, and you have one through Tufts Medical, and you have one through Harvard Pilgrim, your three plans are probably all different. You can't say, well, my friend, they have an Advantage plan and they get X, Y, and Z. These plans are negotiated by the healthcare provider, the insurance provider, and they tell you what they will pay for. That's why you may be eligible for the meals, you may be eligible for transportation. If that was not negotiated as part of your Advantage plan, you're not going to get that. So you may get it, you may not. You may get everything. And they may get, 3 or 4 out of the things. So, and the best place is to talk. If you, a friend of mine always says, the open enrollment's coming in October. I wonder if I should change. Well, if you decide to change, you should probably first talk to the Shine counselor. And 2, Would you change just because you see these ads on TV? That's not the reason I would change. I would think about talking to the Shine worker, thinking about what your health insurance needs are, what's not being met with your current program. Did you have a question? No. Oh, okay. And then we have this private supplemental. I worked for the state for 33 years, so I have Part A and Part B, and I buy a Medicare supplement through the Group Insurance Commission. That picks up my 20%. The other thing with these Advantage plans, be careful. You were talking to me about some of the co-pays are different. Some of the co-pays can be stiff, and there's limits to what they will pay for. So you need to do it's not a light decision to say you're going to change from Advantage over to traditional or traditional to Advantage plan. You really need to talk to I would say the Shine Council here, talk to Joe.
Excuse me, are you saying, I'm not familiar with Shine Council?
Oh, I'm glad you said that. Shine stands as an acronym for Serving the Health Insurance Needs for Everyone. And every senior center has a Shine worker, somebody who has been well trained in Medicare and in the Advantage plans, what's covered, what's not covered, what the benefits and the risks are for each of those plans. But these Shine counselors are really very, very valuable. And if you're thinking about changing, I would chat with them first before you do anything. Just call and make an appointment with them. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. So 3 things that we can do, because we are, again, the front line of defense against fraud, waste, and abuse. First thing, we can protect. Second thing, we can detect. And the last thing is that we can report. So protect your Medicare card. Don't carry it with your Mass Health. If you have a Mass Health card, don't carry that with you. Social Security card, we should never carry with us. And be careful of your credit cards. We carry those all the time. But you should never carry the first 3. Unless you're going to go to the doctor and you know you're going to need them. So protect, detect. Take your personal journal. Let's start by looking at this first, personal journal, as we go through here. These things we think are very valuable because they hold a ton of information. The first, very top of the page, they talk about the 3 things we're going to talk about now, about protecting, detecting, and reporting. If you flip in one page, there's your personal information you can put in there. And then things, your family history of allergies. Oops, I think I may have gone in one page too many. Yeah, this page here. This has all the phone numbers you're ever going to need to contact anybody. It's the second page in, including Senior Medicare Patrol, Attorney General's Office, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, and the list goes on. Because there's no point in you writing it all down because it's already here. Place to put all your medications, a place to put in the dates of all of the, every time you go to the doctor, put the date in and what was done, what was said. If you had any questions, write the questions here. I cannot tell you how many times I've been to the doctor before having one of these and saying, I wish I had asked such and such because I forgot. If I had it written down beforehand and brought this with me, I would know. And then write down the answer too, because when you leave, did they say once a day, in morning or night? And you can put the number of all the physicians and services that you use. And look at the very back of this, the very back page. 5 questions to ask your doctor before you get any test, treatment, or procedure. Do I really need this test or procedure? We simply take the doctor, he must know. I mean, he's a doctor. Ask, do I really need this? What are the risks or the side effects? Are there simpler options? And what happens if I do nothing? And then how much does it cost and will my insurance pay? Pretty much sure that they're not going to know the last one. but their front office should. So take your healthcare journal to every appointment and record all doctor's visits, diagnostic testing, procedures and medication. Prepare questions for medical appointments and record the responses. Keep your Medicare statements for at least 3 years. Why 3 years? If you have a problem, it can take months or over a year to resolve these problems. I had a pneumonia shot, and shots are covered by, these are covered by Medicare. So I was surprised when I got the bill for $470. It said Medicare denied it and my supplemental insurance denied it. So I called, and I called the doctors, and it took a number of calls to get to the doctor. Part of the problem was that my primary care wasn't there. I was seeing a stand-in. Somebody was covering for them. That was part of it. The other problem was they had been in the process of converting their paper records to electronic records. And some stuff got in there that said, you've had way too many pneumonia shots, we're not going to cover. Once we figured out what the problem was, the provider said, you're right, we shouldn't have billed you for that because our records were wrong. So it's important to make sure that all these electronic records, it's difficult to get the information out of there once it's in, so you only want your stuff in. And compare your statements with your journal entries, and we'll talk about the statements in a minute. And carry your journal when you travel. I mean, if you're traveling, now that we're back traveling again, keep it with you. I mean, so if anything happens, somebody knows your doctors, your medications, any things that, any ongoing conditions that you have, it's all in one place. Document all your healthcare interactions with your doctors, testing, any procedures, any care plans you have, any medications, and the questions for your provider. If you would like more of these, there's going to be some here at the Senior Center. You can take some as you go. I have plenty of them. Or you can call the Senior Medicare Patrol, in particular, Caroline Cole, at either the phone number or the email address, and she can send them out to you. So the part of the problem with Medicare in the summary notice is that they can be confusing to read. I mean, there is just a ton of information on there. And a friend of mine said, I said, well, your mother had a problem with it? What was on the summary notice? Well, I don't know. She doesn't read those. She has to. No, she will never. Somebody has to read them. Things that you want to look for are the date of service up in the top left, the doctor that you saw, or provider that you saw, and then what the procedures were, the services that were provided. And reading across, it says, was a service approved, yes or no? The amount provided, the provider charged. They could charge $1 million, but they know they're not going to get it. These are negotiated fees that they've agreed to. The amount that Medicare approved and the amount that Medicare paid. In this case, it says you may be billed for $21.59. That's if you haven't got. That's because it was a Part B service, and that 20% is up to you. If you haven't got a Medigap policy, you're going to probably end up paying that. If you have a Medigap policy, then that will probably be covered, and you won't have to pay anything. And the problem with this is that a lot of folks will look at this and say, well, it doesn't impact me financially. It looks like it's all being paid. But it was a service that was billed for that is now part of your health record. So you want to make sure whatever it is true. Medicare non-payment appeal, if you get a bill, and I never had to get to this point. I called and dealt with the provider directly. It took a number of phone calls between the doctors and their billing service and myself, but we did it. But on the back, you have 120 days to appeal. So if you get a Medicare summary notice and there's something that just doesn't look right, you have 120 days to appeal. Fill out the back of it and send it in. So that's for billing. And then there's this other group I mentioned called KeyPro, if you have a problem with the quality of care, either you think you were discharged from the hospital too early, or you were discharged from a skilled nursing facility, or just it was poor quality of care, you can call these folks and they will help you work through the process of getting this reported and resolved. So this is the backside of the Medicare summary notice if you want to file an appeal. So you have 120 days. Steps you can take to report healthcare errors and abuse. First of all, call the doctor. They're busy, I don't want to bother them. Bother them, that's their job. Call 1-800-Medicare and talk to folks there. Speaking of 1-800-Medicare, has anyone ever got a phone call and looked at their caller ID and it was coming from 1-800-Medicare? I did.
I might have.
You may have, yeah. These scammers use something called spoofing software, and they can put, you ever get a call from your own phone number?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, couple
Well,
times.
same thing. They can put in this IRS, they can put
The
in,
other end never said anything. So.
yep. So call them and see if they can work through the problem. Call the Senior Medicare Patrol. Again, these numbers are all in the journal. And call the Office of the Attorney General for Medicaid fraud control, the Medicaid fraud control unit. These people love to hear from seniors if there's a problem. They live for this kind of stuff. You can call Elder Services. Again, these numbers are all in the book. And you can call our scam line if you think there was a scam going on. I don't know if anyone, maybe years ago, there used to be a clothing store called Sims. It used to be up in Norwood. Do you remember what their motto was? An educated consumer is our best customer. And we would like to think that an educated beneficiary is the best recipient of health care. So the reason that people don't report doesn't impact my pocketbook. You know, Medicare is paying for it. Doesn't impact my pocketbook at all. There was no copay. I wasn't involved. You don't want to bother the doctor. You find that the MSN and the EOB, the explanation of benefits, if you're a Part A and Part B person for Medicare, you get a Medicare summary notice every 3 months. If you are an Advantage Plan person, you get an
EOB.
Yeah, EOB, thank you. Explanation of benefits, an EOB, every 3 months. If you have gone online, I get my, my summary notice in real time. So if it's done today, within a couple of days, I will get a notice electronically that I can log into my account. You're part of a minority community, either based on religion, race, country of origin, sexual orientation. You haven't got a very, very strong command of the English language, and you just don't feel comfortable asking somebody for help, or you may not even know the right questions to ask. So that's another reason people don't report it. And you're probably thinking that I'm the only person that's having this problem. Probably not. Here's something. The Massachusetts CARE Act, which stands for Care, Advise, Record, and Enable. It seems odd that we have to sort of legislate common sense, but this is what this does. AARP was instrumental in helping this get passed. There are 3 parts to the CARE Act. One, if you're in a hospital, you as a patient must be able to designate a family caregiver. This is not necessarily your health care proxy. This is somebody who's going to take care of you once you leave the hospital. It's going to take care of, medications or helping you get out of bed and those types of things. This family caregiver must be notified if the patient is being discharged to another facility or back home. So the care meeting in the hospital with the doctor and the folks there say that you're going to go to, or Uncle Joe's going to go to a rehab facility. Well, later in the day, guess what? They had another meeting. Guess where Uncle Joe wound up? On your front porch the next day. And you didn't know. So they have to tell you where they're going and when. And the last one is the facility must provide live demonstrations and explanations of whatever kind of caregiving is required when you leave, whether it's giving an injection, whether it's giving you medication. It may be something as simple, well, not that simple, but if you've had some certain types of back problems and you're laying in bed, I can't say, give me your hand, I'm going to give you a yank and get you up. There's ways of doing this, and they must give you live demonstrations. This is something a lot of folks aren't aware of, and certainly I wasn't aware of before this. Inpatient admission versus observation. If you're in the hospital, you go to the emergency room, and then they're going to admit you. They're going to admit you either as an inpatient or as an observation. An inpatient and you're not going to know if they don't tell you, because you're going to be in a bed just like it's no different. The observation status means that they're not going to have to monitor you as often as they do an inpatient person. So the problem with this is if you have Medicare A and B, this does not apply to Advantage plans. That's nothing. This has nothing to do with that. But if you have a Part A and Part B, which about 65% of us do, if you are observation status and then you have to go to a rehab facility, and you have not spent 3 midnights in the hospital, who's going to pay for the rehab? You are. You are. So you must be an inpatient, and you ask them, am I inpatient or observation? And you must be there for 3 midnights if you're going to go to a rehab facility afterwards and have Medicare pick it up. Ambulance versus chair cars. The only way that Medicare will pay for an ambulance is if it is medically necessary. The only safe way from getting you from your facility to a Medicare provider for some kind of Medicare covered service. What it never pays for are chair cars. These vans that wheelchairs can scoot into. It will never pay for those. So, and the other thing with ambulances, you need to ask questions and check with them before they even pick you up. Is this covered? We've seen there's a lot of problem. I don't know how to phrase this correctly, but there's a ambulance task force that SMP has been creating and getting together once a month, and they talk to providers of ambulance services, and it's confusing to say the least. I guess the thing is, always ask the questions, will Medicare cover this?
Is it better to call the fire department than a private ambulance? Fire department usually is free, isn't it?
Nothing in life is really free. We're all paying for it one way or the other. I don't have enough information on that.
EMT.
Yeah,
Since they always call us because they know if they call an ambulance, they're going to get charged.
I believe that the EMTs locally, like the fire department, they'll bill Medicare. I mean, someone's got to pay for that ambulance and for the service that they're providing.
It's a fire department
Yeah,
EMT.
yeah.
Is there a reason why they will not cover for the chair care?
I don't know. That's just part of the regulations. But some folks think, well, I'm in a wheelchair. That's the only way of getting from point A to point B. It's covered. It's ambulances. Yeah, it's only ambulances, and if it's medically necessary. Important things to know, Medicare will cover emergency and non-emergency ambulances if the transportation is, again, medically necessary for a Medicare covered service, and the ambulance itself complies with Medicare regulations. These things are never covered by Medicare. If you are in the hospital and any of these things happen, either a foreign object is left inside and you have an air embolism, your transfusion with the wrong blood type, you have pressure ulcers because you haven't been moved enough. If it's fall or trauma, whether it be a fracture, dislocation, a head injury, a crush injury, a burn, or electrical shock, if any of those things happen and you have to be treated for those, the hospital picks up the bill. Medicare will not. It was their fault, they pay for it. So again, that whole thing about the Medicare summary notice in your journal, if you start to get billed for any one of these things because of a visit in the hospital, you want to know. Protect yourself from becoming a victim of, again, anything to do with coronavirus, anything to do with braces. And the other one is genetic testing. That's another one that's been going on. Getting a call saying that Medicare will pay for a genetic testing for you. And you can screen yourself because your family may have a history of, say, cancer or something. The only one that can prescribe a genetic test is your physician. You cannot get a call over the phone to say, oh, Medicare will pay for it. All we need for you to do is give me your what? Medicare number. Yeah. And we talked about telehealth and telemedicine. That has to do with these online visits with your provider, either over the phone, a computer, or some kind of electronic device. Those visits are billable. You will see those on your Medicare summary notice. There's some positive aspects, and then there's beware that it is your provider, and that you're not talking to somebody other than your own provider. And you're not talking to someone that's offering you some free services that, quote, Medicare will pay for. That's not how Medicare works. This is interesting. Advanced beneficiary notice of non-coverage. If the hospital, or it's oftentimes a long-term care facility, they may tell you that you need X, Y, and Z, but we don't think Medicare is going to pay for it. You need to sign this document called an Advanced Beneficiary Notice of Non-Coverage. So in that, what you're saying is, yeah, okay, I know that you just told me that Medicare may not pay for it and I may be liable. But think about the following before signing one of these. Do you want the service or items listed, because they'll tell you specifically what they're going to do. If you choose to get the service or items, you will be asked to sign the form, and by doing so you have agreed to pay the services that Medicare will not pay for. And you may also get an ABN from the skilled nursing facility when the facility believes that Medicare may not pay for it. So if you're ever asked to sign something, it's legit, but you need to know what you're signing and what services that you may end up paying for. Important things to remember: don't carry your Medicare card with you. Don't provide your Medicare card over the phone to anyone. Keep your records of all medical events. Review your Medicare summary notice and your explanation of benefits. And keep them for 3 years. And take action if you suspect something doesn't look right. Beneficiaries, older folks like us, we're used to, you get a bill, you pay for it. You just pay it and get it out of the way. If you get a bill relative to a Medicaid service that you received, and Medicare says there's a balance and you're now responsible, if you don't know 100% that's what you have to pay, don't pay it. Not right away. If you want to appeal it, some people say, well, I'll just pay it and then we'll go through the appeal and I'll get the money back. It is much more difficult to get the money back. If you don't believe if it's your responsibility, and you want to appeal it through Medicare. But this does not mean that you should not pay your bills. It says if you're in doubt whether a bill is actually yours or the amount is incorrect, don't just pay it to get it out of the way and then think you can get reimbursed. It's more difficult to get reimbursed. And the gut test. If something doesn't seem right, probably isn't. I say that to myself every time I see, what's his name on the, who will go unnamed, on the TV telling me. Yeah, and there's a woman now, a former actress, who's now starting to do the same thing with the, so.
Is that Meryl Streep? Is it Meryl Streep? No.
Okay, and you hold the key. We all hold the key as beneficiaries. And this is in case you need that, okay? Perfect.
I just want to make one statement. You mentioned office visits. right? When I had my supplementary insurance and Medicare, if I had to take a physical, I had to do it as an office visit because it would not cover the physical.
We are, yeah, I was over in Dayton last year when we did this, and a woman said, I went in and it was my Medicare monthly visit, healthcare visit, and I got billed for it. When you go in, your yearly Medicare wellness visit, they do a couple things. They don't take your blood pressure. They don't take your blood. They ask you questions. They ask you questions about what day of the week, who the president is. They give you a little story that's sometimes not very interesting and ask you questions to remember about it. That is your wellness check. I did that last month. And then I had my physical. And for the physical, yes, there was a copay with that. So you're receiving, in essence, two services. The wellness check, yearly wellness check, and then I got my yearly physical. They're not one and the same.
Because if I didn't do it as an office visit, I got charged for it.
Right.
So that's why I had to do it as an office visit. And when you do the office visit for this physical, they don't give you all the stuff you're supposed to get when you normally get physical. There's certain things they don't do.
Yeah, I'm not well versed on that part of it,
Yeah,
but
well, at least my doctor.
yeah. Again, some of this goes to specific doctors or specific practices.
But he says, I can't do this because it was a physical, I could do it. Whereas office visit, there's only certain things I can
Yeah.
do. Oh, that's what he's kind of told me.
Other questions? Do we all feel that we're engaged healthcare consumers?
Oh, I have a suggestion.
Yes.
Memorize your Medicare number and memorize your social. I did that.
The social.
Memorize.
So I know that's.
The other one, the Medicare number, there's too many, there's 11.
Yeah, every day. Believe me, in about a week's
Really?
time, you'll know it.
Say it in your sleep or when you're delirious and someone's writing it down. So.
My wife will think it's code.
We need my hat.
Very interesting.
Yeah, thank you. This is great.
Instead of Joe Namath now, they're using Jimmy Walker from the old TV show.
JJ.
Well, they're trying to get the black
Yeah.
people to do it.
Yeah, these people,
Dynamite.
this marketing is pretty slick.
Right.
Yeah.
Pretty slick.
I don't know why we keep them on there. They're so annoying.
Because when you watch this, what do you think they're selling? Medicare. Because what's the number you got to call? 1-800 Medicare benefit helpline. So you think it's Medicare? These are private. This is all private insurance. Private insurance.
Yeah, you don't do,
And sometimes Jimmy Walker's on that show, Funny You Should Ask.
they get a good salary.
Yeah,
for that.
He's on that.
Yeah.
once in a while, yeah.
Somebody doing that.
Amazing.
I'm gonna grab one of those things. I
Oh,
have a friend that couldn't be here
Oh,
today.
please! I've got plenty of them. A bag full. The more I pass out here, the less I should take back with me.
That way, you never get this.
Yeah, she needs one too over there. She's a new.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Another one over here.
Oh. For our nurse, yes. I feel safe in case something happens. We have medical people right here.
Instead of a doctor in the house,
Yeah,
is there a
the
nurse
nurse in the house. Exactly.
They know more than the doctors.
A
Exactly.
lot of times it is.
So,
I'm getting the evil eye.
Yeah, me
What
too.
else is there?
and we finished before 11.
Yeah.
Keeping track of everyone's time.
Excellent, perfect.